It was metal as hell. It was, yeah, that was when I was super into shredding metal. Slipknot and like Bullet for My Valentine were, all
Sure. My name's Adam, and this podcast is all about you and your journey in music. And of course, we'll talk about your new record. And I don't know if you mind talking about camp at all, or
yeah,
since it's
dude,
part of your
whatever.
story. Okay, cool. So, are you originally born and raised in Athens, Ohio?
No, I actually was born in Pittsburgh, grew up
Oh,
until I was about 12 in St. Louis, Missouri. And then I moved to Cleveland, Ohio from then until college. And then that's when I went to Athens.
oh, awesome. How long were you in Cleveland?
Oh, I mean, I'd say that's like pretty much where I like became a human, So
Really?
like
That's my
all of,
family's from Cleveland. That's
oh,
why I was
really?
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, all of middle school and all of high school.
What part of Cleveland? Like actually in Cleveland?
No, it's Hudson, so it's like kind of in between Cleveland and Akron.
Okay. My
Yeah,
family's from Elyria,
oh, nice.
like Lorain County area.
Sure.
Yeah. I
Familiar.
wasn't born there, but my mom was like 8 months pregnant with me when they were living in Dayton, my dad and my mom at the time.
Gotcha.
And they moved to San Diego, so I was a California kid, but
Sure.
but I love Ohio. That's cool. So tell me about Cleveland. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, it was pretty good, dude. Ohio's got some overlooked nature.
Sure.
And yeah, so there's always like fun stuff to do, whether it be like hiking or playing disc golf. And I like to snowboard. And like oddly enough, there's these little like we call them like landfill hills
Uh-huh.
that are just like you can see the top of them from the bottom. But I like to snowboard a lot, and Cleveland's a good spot to grow up. I think.
That's cool. Yeah, I know. I went to like on my cousin snowboards too, but we would go to New York, but like not like we'd be like way upstate New York. I guess
Yeah,
there's some like little hills there. We went a couple times, but
yeah,
I'm not too familiar, but yeah, I did, but I've seen like yeah, you can find little spots because it snows so much there.
yeah. No, it's kind of a funny thing to see, but
Yeah.
they exist and they thrive.
And being even on the lake, it's like an ocean. You look out
It
there and
is.
there's no way you would know. I mean, if you took a photo
No,
on it.
yeah. I'm sure you could trick nearly everyone who like doesn't live by an ocean.
Because there'll be waves. Like I've seen people
Yeah.
surfing out there. It's
Oh yeah.
bizarre.
It's crazy stuff.
That's really cool, man. Well, tell me about how'd you get into music? Obviously, Cleveland has the scene.
Yeah, Cleveland has a scene for sure. Honestly, my dad always had a guitar around. He doesn't play much himself, but he did have one from when he was like my age, which is I'm 27 now. I think that's like when he bought his.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I was just always like from when I was young, like really into music on in kind of my own discovery path. Like my
Mhm.
parents didn't really force anything down my throat other than like Garth Brooks. That's my dad's favorite. And
Okay.
so yeah, I just kind of like got really into Black Sabbath when I was a kid, and like got a Guns N' Roses CD, and like those were the first things where I was like, wow, this is great. I want to get a guitar. And then luckily throughout, my entire life and then into my career, my parents have been like the most supportive, unbelievable, both like financially and like emotionally.
Mhm.
So they bought me my first guitar when I was probably like 12, right when I moved to Ohio. And yeah, I've just been like self-taught. I never really took lessons, just like dabbled until I figured something out. And I've been writing music for pretty like for as long as I've been playing.
Wow. Okay.
Like I put out like my first record when I was 13 or 14. It's like
Really?
yeah, some ridiculous like you wouldn't know it's me, but it exists out there somewhere. If you look hard
That's
enough.
funny. I did see on your Instagram that you put a picture up of that guitar you had when you were like 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah, I always liked that guitar.
It looks sick. I saw it.
Yeah,
I clicked on it because I was like, what is this? It has kind of like a Fender Mustang look,
for
but
sure.
you like carved it, right? Like it was like
I
a
did.
metal looking guitar. Tell
Oh,
me
it
about
was
that.
it was metal as hell. It was yeah, that was when I was super into shredding metal. Slipknot and like Bullet for My Valentine were, dippy dippy dee dee dee, all
Sure.
that. but yeah, I just like was really bored in COVID, and I like to do like things with my hands,
Uh-huh.
and build like whatever I can and fix stuff. And that was just a guitar that I had that I was like, I want to play this on stage, but I want it to look cool too, you know? Um, so then I just got the
Sure.
idea to like shape it my own way, you know?
So because you just did this project
Yeah.
then
So
recently,
I
like
have,
during
I
COVID, so
always,
you haven't had, but you're gonna break it out like
I'll,
on
I'll
tour and
play it
stuff?
for sure. I have so many like guitars that I love and like so many weird guitars that it's hard to play them all. I'm definitely a
Uh-huh.
hoarder of instruments, but yeah, I just had like a bunch of like art projects on my to-do list that I had probably had for 4 years, and I got them like all done in COVID. You know, just nothing to do, no
There you go.
touring. I was just like working on something every day.
Staying productive. I like that. But the
Yeah,
guitar looks rad. I mean, even just how the paint's chipped off of it and like
yeah.
just it just looks so sick. Like,
Oh, thank you. That's
yeah,
good.
I really dig it. So that was your first guitar. That's what you learned on. And then tell me about recording this first record that you said is out somewhere.
Yeah, I actually still have the mic. It was just obviously I started with like using a laptop microphone.
Okay.
And then I got one of those USB mics,
Mhm.
like a Blue Yeti, I think it was called.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I had one of those.
I had that until I was like a sophomore in college. And then like the first Wonderfool record was when I got my first like actual recording interface. All of
Really?
my like self-titled Matt Vinson, like ridiculous, uh, goofy young kid pop folk is through that Blue Yeti. Like I
Really?
probably made 2 records and an EP with that when I was in high school and middle school, you know.
Wow. Were you playing these songs, like going out, like trying to play the records and maybe like selling the CDs? Was that a thing?
I was gigging and selling the CDs. Yeah, it was fun back then actually.
And you just play by yourself?
Yeah, I had like a few iterations of like bands that were just my buddies. I'm like, yo, like play the congos, you know, or like I didn't really have like too many friends that like were actually like seriously playing music. So
Hmm.
it's always kind of like play the harmonica or like, you know, just play something that you can. But
Sure.
yeah, I never really had a band that's like a memorable like for more than a long time until like maybe junior senior year of college.
And that was when camp started, or was
That
this
was
before?
when
Because that band's fairly new, right?
yeah, well, in Athens, Ohio, that we all graduated from there or left the city in 2016, spring of 2016.
Okay.
So I met Taylor and Evan in probably, I don't know, maybe January of 2016. So we
Okay.
only knew each other for like 5 months in the same town.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and I was in at that point, I was in 3 bands with my best friends where it was kind of like this incestuous musician relationship where I would play bass in Buddy's band and he would play drums in my band. And then I'd play lead guitar in the other dude's band and this dude would be playing bass. So we were kind of
Oh.
like, yeah, we had this like house show scene that we were, you know, when you're in college, like I think house shows are just like supernatural because, you know, A, if you're underage, like drinking, you can't go to a bar. So it's like
Right. You're just
you
at
play
some
shows,
house.
yeah, you play shows in the backyard. But also just like there was the one good venue in Athens at the time called the Union burned down our sophomore year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was like a legendary venue, and there wasn't really anywhere else that good to play, you know?
Uh-huh.
So the house show scene was intense. Like every weekend, it'd be like all around town a different, you know, house show, and there'd be like a couple hundred people. You know, it was
Hmm.
like a whole thing, and it wasn't like disrespectful, like rage your party. It was like a real music tight knit scene with people like actually finding like a pure outlet outside of partying. You know, like going to observe the music and like really soak it in.
That's cool. Because when I think of a college party and a band playing, like I would just be concerned with people breaking my stuff or like getting
Yeah,
rowdy and just
I mean,
not caring. But
of
like,
course, there's like, you know, there's exceptions of times where it got out of hand, but like I can even remember like, because at first when I started Wonderful, I wanted it to be one of those like sit down, like traditional, really like calm, sleepy, almost like Gregory Alan Isakov folk.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember like, 100 people in a house getting like pin drop silent sitting on the floor at like a college party on a Friday night, like
Whoa.
some special shit down there.
That is so rad. Did you go down to Athens for music? Like, did you go
I
to college for
did.
music?
Yeah, I majored in audio production
Okay.
and I minored in music.
Wow. And
Yeah.
was that something that you applied to the school because you had already, had these recordings from high school and middle school, or
Yeah,
did
well,
you have to
I've
like prove
always
yourself to get in there?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you did in a bit of a way. I can't really remember the whole application form. I'm sure it's not as like strict as a Belmont in
Or like
Nashville or anything
Berkeley
like
or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, no, I don't remember anything like that, but I've always been I kind of have a duality in my like love for music where I like making records in like the technical aspect as
Mm-hmm.
much as I like the art of making music and the art of recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of nerd out about gear, and I always like have loved playing music and have wanted to play music as a career for my entire life. But in the same like gust of fire behind that is like I've always known that I want to make records. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it was a natural fit for me, and I loved the town. There wasn't really much of like a scene that we knew of going in before it, so it was kind of just like, oh, this town seems like artsy and fun. But we
Mm-hmm.
definitely like created our little,
Scene.
bubble for ourselves. Yeah.
Wow. Was the first band that you really had there? Was that Wonderful?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
wonderful.
wow.
And my buddy's band was called Gaptooth Grin, and the
Good.
other band was Crooked Spines, and they're still bands, and they live in Columbus, and they're
Wow.
still my best buddies. But yeah, that's kind of like to circle back to your initial ask. That's kind of how like myself and the Camp Boys got on each other's radars. We were just like mutual fans of each other because they were playing open mics at this place called Casa that we would go to every now and again. And
Mm-hmm.
then like they were coming to our house shows, and then eventually we just linked up one night, and then we started doing house shows together and kind of like blending the scenes, and pretty much did a house show like every weekend until we graduated and formed that like 5 month intense bond.
Wow. Okay. So after 5 months, but obviously you kept Wonderful going because you have a record coming out next month, and
Yeah,
you've put out what this is going to be your fourth record.
yeah, it's going to be the fourth.
Okay. So you've always just kept going with this no matter what was going on with other various projects, sounds like.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a for me project, like
Right.
I don't really like, I've never really cared about the successes of my releases.
Mm-hmm.
This is honestly the most like involved and intentional release that I've done and for my own personal music to date. And it was just because I, for once, just like wanted to give it a little bit more respect in my eyes than like I used to, where I would finish a record and put it up on Bandcamp like that night and be like,
Okay.
here it is,
No like
everybody.
marketing plan, just like throw it
No,
up.
none of that. Yeah, I'm not very good at any of that because I'm just like, well, if it's good, people are going to listen to it. But that's like in the internet, there's so much you get buried with that.
Sure.
But yes, I moved to Denver after I graduated college, started working at a studio there for a few years. The Camp Boys came out and recorded their second record, Boys, with me out there. And that's when I like officially joined the band.
Oh,
They
okay.
they had me sitting on that record on a few songs, like singing and playing bass, and then asked me to move home after. And that's pretty much the whole camp story. But yeah, on the road, we all bring like our own personal guitars, and you never stop writing songs. So
Mm-hmm.
I always have like more material that is waiting for the wonderful world, and then
Mm-hmm.
COVID really just lent itself the time for me to really dive into a record.
Mm-hmm. What was it like? I mean, obviously, you guys had some major success with "By and By," right? With
Yeah.
Peach Fuzz, the song's what #1 alternative or AAA. It went huge, and seeing that success, was that like kind of a validating moment for you? Like, tell me about once
Yeah. Oh,
things started taking off.
yeah, it's been crazy, like massive steps every bit of along the way, you know. It just
Hmm.
like kind of hasn't stopped in intensity, and we don't really expect any of it to happen. Like we feel proud about the music, but like every time it happens, we're just like, damn, what is going on, you know? But yeah, we're super thankful for everything that has transpired with camp over the past few years. It's been really amazing to be a part of, and you know, we definitely don't have any intentions on slowing down. I'll tell you that.
Sure. I was going to ask you, like, well, do you know? I mean, while working with Wonderful and doing the recording thing in Denver, and how did the focus like turn to camp, like in that By and By record, or was there like something that happened with boys that kind of got you guys on the radar? How did that happen? Do you know?
Oh, well, I think that there was always like even far predating me. I think the first record like really just kind of solidified an absolute concrete part in music history. Like, because it's just such a good record. I was a huge fan of that record when I lived in Athens, you know, like
Okay.
um so I think that like it was one of those things where like a real word of mouth, like solid success takes a long time for it to be
Hmm.
genuine and not just like a fad. So I think the natural progression has like the fire has been like burning at like a serious rate, like ever since the boys put out their first record in Athens, Ohio, you know,
Okay.
in 2016. I think when it gets on like the national scope and
Hmm.
things like that, I don't know. I don't really think there was one time. I think the shows just like kept getting bigger because I went on the first headline tour that Camp had that was like 5 shows in the spring of, I don't know, 2017 maybe.
Okay.
And I was opening as Wonderful.
Oh,
And
cool. So you guys are still in that same crew. It sounds like
yeah,
from Athens. It was like, okay, well, obviously they recorded the record with you because they knew you.
yeah. So that one, I think that I flew back to like join the tour, and then we did a little bit more touring that fall. Um, but I didn't move back from Colorado until 2018. Or
Oh,
yeah, I think that was my first show with camp was January 2018.
okay. And you moved where, back to Ohio?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I've been here ever since, and I love it.
Awesome.
It's good to be back. But yeah, like we on that first tour, like you know, we'd play Columbus for like 300 people, and we
Mhm.
played Cleveland for like 200, and then the next show that we played was in Lansing, Michigan, and there was like 8 people. And
Okay.
then like we played DeKalb, Illinois for like 15 people, you know?
Hmm.
And it's a crazy thing because like I got pictures and messages from people that were at that show that were at Red Rocks a few nights ago. So like the tight knit, like that's where like I feel like there's been crazy fans from the start, and they're like the absolute pillars that like made the success so real and like hearty, I suppose.
Sure. Sure. So yeah, it was almost like a gradual progression, and then the Peach Fuzz obviously does really well, which I'm sure didn't hurt when you get radio
Yeah.
play and everything else. And
Yeah, and we did like a few late nights. Yeah, those are like the big things that but you know, I don't know, it just seems like every tour is just like a little bit bigger as far as like what we put into it, how much the show grows, like the venue size, all the
Mhm.
above, you know, and I feel like it's just we're not skipping steps, and it's not going super slow, you know, it just feels like a natural pace for me.
Mhm. And you've put out at least a song this year with Camp, and obviously you have a record coming out with Wonderful. How do
Yeah.
you like? Were you writing? Are you constantly writing for your project as like tours are going on with the other band?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what like we all have just like guitars that we noodle around on the road. Um and yeah, like being home definitely like afforded a lot of time to
Hmm.
like actualize ideas that I wrote on the road that like in a real busy year might have like slipped aside, you know?
Were you where were you guys at when COVID happened? Were you on tour?
Yeah, we were we were on tour. We were supposed to play Cincinnati the day before, like, it all went to hell.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and we came home. The rest of the tour was canceled. And then, other than the drive-in tour that we did in the fall, we were home for all of it until we just left for this last run.
Hmm. With those shows towards the end before Cincinnati, were you seeing the number of people dwindling down from what the ticket sales you knew were? Did you see that at all? Or people worried
No,
about it? Or it was just kind of like,
we were like pretty early with it. We weren't like pushing any limits.
hmm,
I think like right when maybe one other band of like our caliber pulled the plug, like we pulled. I think that we maybe knew about the virus for like 24 hours, 48 hours before it.
oh, wow. So you guys are quick to be like, we're
Yeah.
not going to mess around.
No, no, we're definitely not trying to put like ourselves and people in jeopardy like that.
Sure.
Even like knowing where it would have gone to. We're just like the type of dudes that are like, nope, we're good.
Yeah. Sure. So then you get home and are obviously, aside from your projects of guitars and guitar shaping and stuff like that, where were you writing this record, and was this record all kind of put together and recorded and done by yourself?
Yeah, I record everything for the most part at home. I have a few buddies that help me like on drum days that'll just like sit there and record for me, and like help me get tones and talk me through that. Um,
So
but
you
as
play
far
everything on the records though. You play drums, guitars,
yeah,
everything. Oh, wow. Okay, I
yeah,
wasn't aware of that.
there is maybe like any of the keys on the record. I played keys on maybe like four of the songs, and then the other five have like Tay from Camp sat in on keys because he's pretty good at figuring out some like really cool melodic parts.
Uh-huh.
And Joe from Camp played keys too. And my roommate Mike, who's in the camp crew, played some sax on it.
Mhm. Cool.
And my girlfriend sang on a song, and that's about it. Other
That's
than that,
awesome.
I played it all.
That's rad. I love that you guys are so supportive of each other's projects. It's not like, can you believe he's doing like his own record? Like they're like
Yeah.
willing to jump on and help you out and stuff. I think that's so cool.
No, we all love our side projects and like respect because we all write a ton and are like super involved in the production of records. Like we all kind of have our hands in like the recording process of a lot of
Mhm.
different music. Last year, I think I either mixed, recorded, or mastered 10 different records.
Wow.
So
So you
yeah,
still do that, like what you went to school for. That's still kind of
yeah,
your favorite or a thing that you really enjoy doing.
yeah, 100%. It's great. Um, yeah,
So
we all
that's cool that that
with
wasn't something that kind of went to this like a back burner once you started like the success of camp started going. Like you're
yeah.
still able to
No,
do both of those. That's really
I'm just
rad.
like scheming in the background, like gathering gear until I can like open up my studio and if and whenever like camp gets old man slowdowns, when they're wheeling us on stage, I'll just have a studio to sit in.
There you go.
Yeah.
So were you able to mix a bunch of records over the course of the last year and a half?
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty good. Like a lot of Ohio people,
Mhm.
and family members. Like my cousin's a super talented songwriter, from Colorado. Her project is called Coos, Cous. And yeah, a couple people from New York. But just a fun year. Like I've got a pretty good enough studio in my house with gear that like I can record, small band or most comfortably like one person with me and my roommate. We like to produce records together.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, and it's sweet. Like I love home recording because you have like the amenities that you can kind of relax in that
Mhm.
studios always don't hit.
Right. And
Uh,
like you're not like pushing the clock like, oh my gosh, you only have an hour, like watching the money like
yeah.
run off.
No, if somebody's like, obviously I don't like invite strangers into my home, but uh,
Sure.
yeah, you get to take a break and like actually cook a meal. And there's just some freedom with it. And like if you get good tones, doesn't really matter, where
Mhm.
you recorded it.
Sure, sure. With you said you guys did a drive-in concert, a tour?
Yeah, we
What
did a
was that
drive-in
like?
tour in September. It was crazy. It was kind of weird to play, but we had a great time and saw some beautiful country in like the Northeast in the fall. Yeah, it was. I don't know if we like would, pandemic aside, I don't know if that's our get, but
Right, right, right.
it was good to play at that point.
It's cool. It's like a timestamp almost type thing. It's like, well, it happened, and like you was kind of something like a bucket list. I don't know, kind of
Yeah.
weird thing like that.
No, it definitely is. It hits the checkbox. You like didn't know that you missed
Yeah.
the check.
Right, right. Okay. We've been in a drive-in tour. I heard somebody say, I forgot who it was, but it was funny. They were talking about, instead of like bring out the horns, it's like bring out the horns.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Wow. Well, I mean, you guys just played Red Rocks, what, like a few days ago?
Yeah,
What was that like? I've never been there, but I would imagine a band like yours would be a really rad band to see there. I wouldn't want to go there and see like No Effects. I'd want to
yeah,
go there and see like Bon Iver or like
for sure.
something
Yeah,
like
no,
that. Like,
it's great. It's our second time there, so it was just as good, but not as surprising or nerve wracking. It was just a really, really fun, and we have all of our family and friends out, so it was just a great time.
do you have family still in Denver area? Is that why you moved
Yeah,
to Denver originally?
not why, but definitely a huge perk.
Okay.
But yeah, my sister and brother still live there, and a couple sets of aunts and uncles and
That's
cousins.
cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Who'd you guys play with at Red Rocks?
Trampled by Turtles.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah,
rad.
yeah, those guys are great. It was real fun.
Was it like a full capacity? And was that like your first show back to, or you guys probably played shows before that? Or was that your first one
No, we
back?
actually didn't really. We did like just some stuff around town and like not much other than that. So yeah, Sandy, Utah was the first show, and that was definitely our first show in a while.
Was it weird to play like in front of people or
No, it was
emotional?
great.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been waiting for it. We absolutely like just were counting down the clocks, and then when it was go time, it was like we didn't even skip a beat. We were just freaking out.
That's awesome. So the new record comes out what, August 11th?
Yep,
August,
August
okay.
11th.
August 11th. And are you planning to do like, is there a big plan for a tour, maybe another like opener camp tour, or are you gonna do something on your own, or what do you usually
Um,
plan for the album?
yeah, probably not a camp tour. We normally don't do that to like tire ourselves out.
Oh,
Um,
good call.
but we have I have a nice band that I've been playing around Columbus with for like end of pandemic and like even a few live streams in the pandemic.
Hmm.
And we're doing a show on the 14th at this like rad venue in Columbus called Ace of Cups. So that'll be like the big Columbus blowout. I've been trying to track down a few shows around it, but no real big tours. I kind of just like fit in special shows when I can
Hmm.
in between touring, but I like to take it pretty easy when I'm off,
Sure, sure.
soak up the home life.
Yeah, I can imagine with yeah, I'm sure you guys are pretty busy with camp alone, and then not
Yeah.
only that, but all the other stuff you have going on.
Yeah.
Are you
We
guys
all, with our side projects, just kind of like play odds and end shows in like cool spots that we know that it'll be like really something special for us. It's not really
sure?
like touring avenues for any of us.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
So the days of you opening up for camp and then playing a show with camp are over.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a new record or a new song out with camp? Are you guys working on a new record too? Is that all done during the
Um,
pandemic?
I don't know. It's like hard to tell at this point. We've got some
Okay.
stuff that we're working on, but nothing that's really visceral at this point yet.
Right on. Very
Yeah,
cool. Well, dude, thank you so much for talking with me. I know you had a wild day with the plane and everything else, so I appreciate you taking
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
time, Matt. Man, you've been great.
No
I do
worries.
have one more question for you before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, of course. Um, I think the biggest thing to like feel personal satisfaction with it is to not pay attention to your successes and actually focus on loving your craft, most importantly, believe the music that you play and especially the lyrics that you write if you choose to write music with lyrics. Because I think that like anybody that I've known that has had success with music is just like an undeniable artist that really found it in themselves to, you know, find the chords and the words that like rang the most true with them, and that shows up to people, you know. If you can see when somebody's just trying to make it in music, you know. So that's like a hard double-edged question to answer, because everybody wants to feel like financial success with music, but you have to really let people know that you're doing it for the right reason, and I think that's the biggest thing. Bringing it backwards.